Yes, but as I always say, this is actually your event. So this is your chance to gather your questions, your thoughts, connect with people also, and of course get some great advice. And with that, I would want to officially open the session and send a very warm welcome to all of you on Monday morning. Happy Monday to all of you in the different locations and places where you are. We're still waiting for a few people to join us, but I think we are a good number now. I would want to briefly just mention that the selection of speakers this morning is not done by accident. This is for a very specific purpose related to the issue. Two people who are actually together in the field of promoting a better world through renewable energy and a cleaner world, looking after the environment. That is one, Malgosia, and also Daniel. And then we felt it was important to add one person that I've really learned to appreciate a lot over the last year, which is Paul, who's joining us from London, who really is very much aligned with some of the thinking that we have. But before we go into the session and the introductions, I want to also thank MeetEngland, who is supporting the session today, which allows us to offer this session for free. And the representative of MeetEngland this morning joining us is Caroline Phelan, actually based not in England, but just not too far from where we are based, but in France. And Caroline, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know you had a specific reason for supporting this session, and I just wanted to welcome you and give you the chance to share the reasons for being with us this morning.
Oh, hello everybody, and thank you so much for that warm welcome, Kai. Yes, no, as Kai said, I'm based out here in mainland Europe, and our partnership with Association World really enables us to listen to you, to learn from you, so that we can feed back to all of the UK industry who are on their starting blocks to welcome back European and international events in the UK. And so all of the information that we can learn from you this morning and gather from you will be shared with our colleagues in the UK. We're very interested in the future of exhibitions around conferences. So all of the information you can share is very valuable. And thank you. I'll pass you back. I'll pass the parole back to Kai.
Yes, thank you very much. I think really the motto these days is learning from each other, understanding what everybody's doing and sharing. So thank you for providing that opportunity. Going into the session, we have, and I think, one Slido before we get started and see how everybody is doing related to the specific session here this morning. There are a few questions, don't get irritated. This is a multiple choice, and we just want to get your feel and understanding a bit how you were doing with the first question in 2021. So give it a bit of time, read through some of the questions, reread them through. 2020 had a significant impact on our exhibition or lost significant funds. If that is the case, please, that could be the one that to choose. One other question is, we raised more revenue with virtual exhibitions in 2020 than maybe than that was the case before. Interesting and important element just to understand how people actually get by. One other question here, I have to move my paper, is our exhibitors, and I think that is an important element, were satisfied with our virtual exhibition solution as an association. And of course, then the other question is, our exhibitors were dissatisfied with our virtual exhibition solution, not necessarily because you didn't do a good job, but maybe just expectations weren't met, just because people or companies, partners, sponsors felt that that wasn't really the way to go, which then also obviously influences what happens or doesn't happen in the future, which is of course the topic today. Some associations, and I'm always surprised how many those don't have an exhibition part connected to their exhibition, to their conferences. I would say these are primarily industry funded or non-industry funded associations that maybe have the big financial elements to do these congresses connected to an exhibition. So let's look at some of the results. Yes, I mean, I would say, I guess, similar to your thinking, not a big surprise, 97% moved from a physical exhibition to a virtual exhibition. Does that mean 21% of you actually didn't go that way? And if so, it'll be interesting to hear that also later on in the session. 2020 had a significant impact in terms of exhibition, 35%. I find that quite moderate, that number. And I guess maybe internally there wasn't enough research done whether exhibitors were satisfied or not, because I think if we only have 24 satisfied exhibitors, exhibitors, and 40% were not, 14% were not satisfied, 19 now, then that also should tell us something on how to work this maybe in the future. Interesting here is that 5% managed to raise more revenue with a virtual exhibition in 2020, and interesting to hear some of you actually sharing maybe later how you managed to do this. So thank you very much for that first slide there. There will be another one at the very end, but I would like to introduce the first speaker, and it's a person, an individual that I've been a big fan of the last 15 years. It's Malgosia, the deputy CEO of Wind Europe, and many of you know her. She's been promoting, and I think that is one mission herself, but surely through the association, promoting renewable wind energy in general. What I find just fascinating is that she is also promoting this on different levels, for example, to students and teachers at schools. She's been, I believe, the initiator of a children book. And Malgosia, please correct me if that is wrong, but seeing that a few weeks ago was really fascinating, because obviously when we try to promote change, we do that best when we can do that with the young minds and the students. So a great strategy to do that. So congratulations to that. Obviously, children are your focus and one of the focus of your association. So wonderful to see that. Also the connection there that you do with students, young children, and your corporate members, corporate partners, where students can ask questions to. I think that is really creating a very new dynamic. I haven't seen many associations doing that, and it's another testimony to me that when I think about association innovation, I think of you and Wind Europe. So for that reason, so much thank you to you and your team for allowing us this morning, and we see it already on the screen for what you have managed to do. You went quite a different way, maybe beyond what other associations were doing. I think a real eye-opener there. I looked at this and I thought, wow, this is, I mean, I saw big Euro signs in my eyes rolling up and down, thinking, you know, how do you do this CNN TV type of staging there? And it's a great story to share. So thank you for doing that. And the first question would be, what actually made you decide to go that way and go beyond what everybody else seemed to have been doing?
Thank you very much, Kai. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for the introduction. It's not only me, but it's 60 people in the organization that we have that are working on all those different creative concepts, including indeed some really nice activities for the children that we are doing. So here, back to maybe the educational things we can cover at the next webinar if you would like to. but here to the topic of the events, online events. Indeed, we think that we have a creative concept that worked, and I would be very happy to share what worked, but also some lessons that we learned by doing it. We have also Eric on this event, Eric Antonis, who was helping us from the technical standpoint to develop it. To your question, Kai, why we did it? So we all know what was the reality last year, and unfortunately, we continue with COVID still this year, and with all the restrictions that we all had to face. And we just realized with our event that there is no possibility, even though we've moved it from September to December. We've realized in September actually that we won't be able to organize it as we've planned to do it. So, but then also we were thinking about all the different webinars and all the different online conferences that everyone was basically moving their events to virtual space. And we thought that with the fatigue, in December, with all the time that we spend in front of the screen, just watching those webinars session after session after session, we thought that there's quite a big risk that people would be willing to pay us not to watch it rather than pay us to attend it. And we just thought that if we don't come up with something creative, something that would add value, something that would attract people, we're probably better off if we don't do it at all. We had very little time. We really took a decision end of September for the event in December, what we want to do. With all the restrictions that COVID gave us, we were also very aware that we need to do it differently in terms also how we work as a team. That we won't be able to just centralize everything like for our usual conference. You have one format you have a similar format for the conference, so that people understand there is a session with 4 panelists, with Slido, with questions. Here we thought it has to be something completely new and done in a very decentralized way. So so then we thought, okay, with a little time, with the fatigue of the online events, what do we do that also people understand how to make the most of it on both sides, on the production side, but also for our audience. And we came up with this model that was Wind TV. We thought that TV is something that everyone is familiar with, so it will be intuitive in terms of how to develop it, but also for people to manage it afterwards, to know where to go, what to expect from different building blocks, from different programs. So what we did, we've created a frame internally in the office. We've created a frame of different building blocks, and we create some clear guidelines for people what they could do, how much freedom they have to develop it. And when I talk about the people developing it, we also knew that we can't, in this short period of time, we can't rely only on our team to give us content. We had 4 days of a constant content stream. So we also went out to our members and partners organizations, asking them, look, those are our building blocks. Would you like to be part of this project, which is Win TV? It works just like TV. So if you can think of any program that you think would fit to this concept, then please let us know. So this is what we did. We've launched a kind of a call for proposals within these building blocks, and we got a lot of good ideas of the team, but also from our members, how they would like to contribute. And that's how we put it together. Basically, we had a frame, we had a lot of enthusiasm, we had a lot of creative ideas, and we basically put together a Win TV in less than 2 months' time. Maybe I stop here and I respond to. Yeah, I know you have other questions, Kai.
I mean, you make it sound so easy, you know, and we just did this. I think one reason, of course, that you put all together as a team is the shortage of time, but then also really getting everybody behind that. And it's almost like this was your project for the next months to come, and not a whole lot of opportunity and possibilities to really activate other things. Because if you stage something like this, then it's clear the whole team is behind it. I mean, what is one of the key learnings coming out of this, and what in your mind worked very well then, even in terms of internal resources, but for you, what was the key learning? Would you do that again? Where is this going? If we now also go back maybe to physical events again, will this model be further developed or become more of a hybrid model? What is the future going to be for you?
Yes, so we definitely would like to continue with this project. It was very well received, and well, it sounds easy, but to be honest, it wasn't that difficult. What you saw something that looks very fancy, and indeed that's how it looked. But at the end, it was it was something that many associations are doing anyway, right? We're doing videos promoting different campaigns. We're doing webinars and interviews online now, right? There's so much of those building blocks, as I call them, that we are already doing. And then it's a question of putting the right frame around it. So we have maybe different type of content as well, a bit of a lighter, like we did a sponsored quiz, for example. That was live. We were putting some content also for the families. So we thought, okay, TV, you sit in front of the TV watching serious content for the whole day. Why don't you call your children and do something also with them? So we would have for 20 minutes at the end of the day, we would have kids versus wind gurus. So we pre-recorded children basically interviewing some of our CEOs in a funny manner. So it was much lighter content, again, something that fits the TV concept. But it wasn't that difficult to put together. So now we've realized that with a bit of so we can take the frame, and by frame I'm calling all the fancy stuff that looks fancy, but actually it's not that difficult to prepare. You have different templates that you can download so that it looks on the screen, like you have a news sticker, you have a possibility to put some sponsored banners, you have the commercials. You basically make it look and feel like TV, and it's not that expensive, and it's not that difficult to put together. And the rest of it, what we want to do, we want to basically use it as another channel mainly for the content that we would have to develop anyway, right? As I said, the different campaigns, different videos, different material that our members have, and then the live content and the extra content would be something that we would develop probably only twice a month. So there is not that much work. We would like to keep it because it worked in December. We know we can do it in a much easier way. Eric, here to you and your team. We had a great support from you on the day. We actually there were a lot of things that we've tried, and we don't feel that you don't need to use, for example, a very fancy studio. So Eric helped us to put together those green studios that we had in the office. Probably now, if we would have to organize another event, we would go for just one studio and maybe not the two, and make it much easier, and therefore it would be cheaper as well. So really looking back at the project, we would probably want to focus maybe on less of those elements that didn't create that much difference. We would definitely want to make some more money on it. We did make money on the event, on the sponsored content, on the commercials, like on the TV that you would that's the revenue stream that I guess all the TV channels would get. So we would definitely want to do more of that, and we see that there's a huge possibility. Should we have more time, then we would definitely make more money on it. And it's very, very important also with whom you partner. So we're very happy with I'm really doing a big promotion here for Eric, but he fully deserves it, and the team. They were so flexible, and in developing this concept with us, it was a learning for both. We've done it for the first time. He and his team and ourselves. So it's very important also that you get someone who understands and it's flexible. Because yeah, we have to try new things. Otherwise, it's going to be deeply boring, and no one is going to watch it.
So you had a clear division between what you were doing internally, and then also clear understanding what you were actually outsourcing, and then looked how do you internally activate everyone to come on board to do this. And I think we have a brief 30-second video to show you what that actually looked like at the end for the ones who haven't seen it, but I think it definitely created a wow effect amongst many associations. So let's just look what that looked like. I love the title Wind TV and Wind Premium. This reminds us all of Netflix and all sorts of other services. I mean, congratulations. I think there is still so much to share on this. I think there are many non-believers here to, when you say this was actually not so difficult at the end. So please collect your questions that you have. Yeah, Malgosia?
If you don't mind, Kai, seeing this trailer, it looked quite fancy. So I just wanted to tell you how it was done. Fully online, downloaded the template. We've put together, we filled it with footage from our previous events and what we basically had already in our internal library. We put some music on it, and that's it. It was done fully in house and with a very little cost.
Sounds like a great team you have.
I do.
Yes. So, I mean, again, please collect all your questions that you may have. One question is, in fact, Caroline, I think okay, you asked that question because I think everybody's desperate to know that. What is that question that you are asking?
Yeah, I think everybody's thinking, we just want to know how much it cost.
Okay, it's a tricky question because it depends. Well, I tell you, we paid the biggest cost was the studio, of course, the building the studio and the technical team that we had in the office. So basically for a week time, we would convert our kitchen in the office and our boardroom into a studio and the center of command for the technical team, and that was the biggest cost. And well, it's difficult for me to tell you exactly what is the cost, just because we used the studio also and the same team for the event that we've organized a week later with Danielle, who is also here on the panel, right? So we had different type of we shared the cost. We didn't have to build it twice. So if you then divide it between the two events, it was around for the studio and the technical work, it was around maybe 70,000 euros, and then we would have some small extra cost that was used for external camera operator that help us with basically together with the guidelines and the freedom for the team to develop what they wanted. We gave them a friend of ours who used to work with us previously, who is now freelance camera operator, and he told us, okay, for this amount of time, for a month, I will be available day and night whenever your team member calls me and say, hey, I want to record this and that. And that's what he helped us to record and edit. And we rented for a week. We also rented a Tesla car that we branded with Wind TV. And we were going to the places where we could go in Brussels and around to do some interviews. So again, we created a funny program which was called Guy on the Road. And we paid 800, I think, for the rental of the Tesla. So those were really, the rest was done in-house.
Just for your information, everything that Malgosia now talked about, we didn't really have so much time to share now visually. We will add those links and the presentations in the information that you receive with the recording and other information. So if you have more questions there, that is fantastic. I mean, super story, Malgosia. Thank you, Eric. Eric is, of course, thinking, obviously, I didn't charge enough here. You know, everybody's talking so greatly.
That's why
about
I didn't
it.
want to say that.
Yeah, I know this how this goes. You know, we know. I mean, it's a great story, and others would have similar stories to tell. But thank you, Malgosia, for now. It's fascinating just to see the complexity of it and how still relatively, if you say so, we believe you, simply it can actually be done. But obviously, two takeaways for me right away is one, you involve the entire team and probably make that your project for that time period. Everybody seems to become a moderator or have some sort of a role behind or in front of camera. And the other one is, you mentioned this slightly so much as a side note, but you mentioned you shared actually with another association, the studio. I think that's brilliant. Because it can obviously decrease the cost for one association. So I think that is something that we definitely need to have on the radar and pick up on, because as more that can be done, as better that is, of course, for the associations. And on the cost side, if resources or sources can actually be shared like that. So great learning there for me personally. Thank you. Get your questions ready there. We come to the next intervention by Paul Guest, who I met about a year ago, just really 12 months ago, when the two of us were on an online session about creating global partnerships. And the alignment that we had there was actually amazing. So I felt there's no harm to stay involved with Paul throughout the year, and I definitely think ongoing. But Paul is the commercial director of a company called SportsPro Media. We, I guess, always believe it's very important to also bring people from the outside in, people who are not necessarily involved in the world of associations. And one fundamental thing that why Paul is joining, and Paul, thank you so much for spending the time doing so, sharing with us this morning, is really the very different type of thinking that we sometimes lack a bit in associations, because we are so much, there's so little innovation sometimes happening, and unless we are forced to do so, it's not necessarily happening. And I think that is a mindset that Paul generally has. That's his personality, is that thinking beyond these borders. And I think that's also why partly he was asked to actually join SportsPro Media to help him improve things, to transition the organization into something quite different. And we hear that a bit later. But Paul has experience on the event side, has been involved in global and international single sports, multi-sports events that you would all know about. I don't want to promote too much, but I mean, thank you, Paul, for joining us this morning. We are so much aligned. It's in terms of what shouldn't be the next best thing, and I think that is what we hear from you a little bit. But can you please share just briefly what is SportsPro Media all about, so that we, not in this world, have a bit of information about that and what you do there?
Thanks, Kai. Very kind introduction, and happy to meet everybody. And Malgosia, I absolutely loved how polished the Win TV looked. That was excellent. So I'm going to be picking your brains afterwards about that as well. A bit about SportsPro Media. So we effectively sit right in the center of the business side of the sports world. We started as a publisher, as a magazine publisher 17, 18 years ago. And then over the years, we've transitioned obviously to online news media naturally. And then about 8 years ago, we started producing summits and conferences around the world. We now have events in about 15 countries around the world, including 5 major summits: London, Singapore, Madrid, Atlanta, Lausanne, Singapore. So it's quite a breadth across the industry. And we are effectively the go-to source of kind of news and insight for the sports world. And we can go into a little bit more detail about kind of how that looks, but I think there are certain similarities between our position in the industry and yourselves, in that there is quite a distinction between the buy side and the sell side of the industry. So a lot of how we approach that is effectively eradicating that split and how we work with those different stakeholders within sport. And it's, again, we can go into a bit more detail, but yeah, we quite literally sit in the center of it all, really, with the business side of sport.
And you've done something there last year with an event that was also quite new, in a sense that you didn't think about what could be the next best thing. And I think that related to one of your key events or key properties that you run with a couple of thousand people on, I believe. Do you want to share our discussion that we had about let's say, thinking as an association, okay, for many of us last year, the next best thing was partners paid for the physical exhibition. So how do we satisfy them? And the next best thing is to create a virtual exhibition. And your thinking about that was quite different. Can you share that story with us that I find so fascinating?
No problem. And I think, Kai, you're obviously very aware. I have yet, certainly within the sports world, and forgive me, I certainly, my ignorance about the wider sectors is certainly quite paramount. Within the sports world, I have yet to see ROI for exhibitors and for exhibition space. Primarily, why is somebody spending 500,000 or $750,000 exhibition space? A lot of it is peacocking. That's what it is. It's become a line in a budget and has been for the last 20, 25, 30 years. And actually, if you genuinely look at what the hell are we spending all this money for on an exhibition space, I would find it, I've yet to come across anybody in the business side of sport who's been able to justify that spend. It really doesn't exist. So with that in mind, it's, well, what's the actual purpose of an exhibition space? And it's to get in front of the right people. Yes, there's a certain amount of kind of brand awareness. There's the top of the funnel aspects in terms of that familiarity. Does it provide you with credibility? That's questionable, because everybody's fully aware that you can buy your way in. So how much credibility really does an exhibition space provide you with? Ultimately, there, everybody's looking at the bottom of the funnel. How are we genuinely engaging in business development? How are we meeting the right people, people that we actually want to have conversations with? Well, that's the purpose of it. And yet most people that we were speaking to about exhibition spaces, how are you measuring it? I had this many meetings over 2, 3, 4, 5 days at a conference. I collected this many business cards. It doesn't mean a thing. They're horrendous, ineffective metrics that don't actually translate to generating your business revenue. So instead, when we were looking at our stakeholders, and the example that Kai is referring to is the motorsport side of the sports world treats itself quite differently to the rest of the sports industry. So we do things differently within motorsport. In fact, we actually SportsPro started in motorsport originally with a partnership with Formula One. And we did hold an annual conference once a year. And we published an annual called the Black Book, which in the industry, and forgive me, it's not our phrase, but is referred to as the Motorsport Bible. So those were our two primary revenue streams. And at the conference, it was people paying for exhibition space. And in the motorsport industry, we had Formula E cars in there. We had GP bikes in there. We had, data analysts providing all of their data and this sort of things. It's a very kind of sexy looking event. But actually, what are they getting from it? What are they getting from it, other than the fact that people are walking past a Formula One car and going, that's incredible. I've never got this close to a Formula One car. Is that exhibitor actually getting anything from that? Who are they actually wanting to speak? Because they're having lots of meetings because everybody wants to sit next to the person who's displaying their NASCAR car or their MotoGP bike. And so what we actually looked at was a membership model. And instead, talking with the people who'd been spending money either at the conference or spending money in the publication, saying, what are you guys actually trying to get here? Are they trying to get introductions to the right people? And this translates to the rest of sport. I don't know if this would translate out of sport, but effectively within motorsport, you have people who have got headaches. They're the buy side of the industry. And you've got people who can fix those headaches. And that's the sell side of the industry. And there's this massive disconnect between the two. And that's where we come in. And so as part of the membership, yes, it's content, it's educating people on the familiarity of not just what the potential solutions are, but also what are the headaches that people have got at the moment. And obviously there are a lot of new ones over the last 12 months, not least within sport. You've got a lot of piracy problems throughout broadcast and throughout streaming and OTT. But within the membership model, we drill down quite specifically into what they were looking for. So one of the things that we actually worked on was we will provide you with a certain number of introductions to the right people. So if I'm somebody that's on the sell side of the industry, rather than me spending God knows how much on an exhibition stand to speak to however many people to get them into my funnel, but actually how much are actually going to be relevant for the bottom of it, well, the metrics just weren't there. How they were measuring it was so inaccurate and so ineffective. And instead, if we can say we can get you, let's say it's 5 introductions to people who actually want to speak to you, because the other side of our membership are the people with the headaches. Now, previously, they would have to attend an event and look through however many exhibition stands or however many content speakers and go, well, how do we evaluate this? You know what, actually, we're going to end up sending out an RFP, a request for proposal, get people to send in. It's incredibly inefficient. Whereas we can say to them, look, you tell us what your headache is, and we'll introduce you to 5 people who can potentially fix that. And it's incredibly simple. It's incredibly simple, but it has worked so well. And in terms of what that's looked like revenue-wise, when we were previously evaluating what we were doing within Black Book Motorsport, it was, okay, how do we increase our revenue? Well, we either have to increase our floor space, increase the size of the event, or we have to add another summit, another event, the kind of the standard things that you look at. Well, we added another event and it was fine. It was profitable. It was okay. The revenue we generated for that new event, within the space of 4 months of our memberships, we generated 5 times the revenue than adding that new event. And I assure you the cost was significantly lower, about 1/10 of the cost, rather than us producing a new conference to setting up a membership. And one of the biggest sides of all of this is the buy side are now, we are generating almost as much revenue from the buy side as we are from the sell side. So it's about a 55-45% split, whereas previously it was 90-95% sell side, 5-10% buy side. And because of that weight that we have now, we are, when I say we sit in the middle of the sports, in motorsport, we're right in the center. We are the people that have got more qualitative intel on the industry than anybody, and we're matching them up with that, and still using our content channels as well to say, okay, these are the headaches that people can solve. This is how they can solve them. So when we go to make an introduction, so let's say somebody's trying to sell something to Formula E, well, we can say, here we go, Mr. CMO of Formula E. Here's the article that we've written about them. Here's the panel position that they spoke at, that they provided insight. Here's the case study they presented. We can, we're effectively producing the sales collateral for the sell side. So that's how that model worked.
Super story. I think that is really a very different way of looking at things. It reminds me a little bit, the perspective of creating more qualitative engagement, and it makes me think, we as associations or my events team or event planners, we go to large trade shows, and we are expected to do 8-10 meetings on a day and join education and this and that party. And parties we're always happy to join, but they are at the end of the day. So my teams come back and they're quite exhausted, and what they have done is exactly what you say: collect a lot of business cards and a few contacts here and there. Half of the time they spend meeting people that are old friends, old connected in the industry, whether it's industry or association. But what actually didn't happen, and that is so true, is that quality engagement that we, I think, as associations are looking for and event planners are looking for, because at the end of the day, it is about relationship and relationship buildings. And this is how we make decisions, not only on the finances, but on the engagement and the trust that we build with people. And it's great to hear that story. Thank you for sharing that. We come back to that. Please also think about your questions to Paul, because I think that is a good transition to Daniel Deng now. Paul was saying, speaking to the right people. When I spoke to Daniel and we as a group in the preparation of this, there was a big alignment in regards to this, and this is a bit what Daniel will talk about. But just to give you a bit of a brief about Daniel, we met also a few years ago at an event when he was telling me, and Daniel is a great storyteller. He was telling me he came to Solar Power Europe in a time when the association was in big challenges related to 2008, when a lot of their members actually left or went bankrupt, when the production of solar panels went to Asia and God knows what. And Daniel came in and really took this on in a very much business development mindset. And I know he always praises the team, what that great team of Solar Power Europe has been done and changed over the last years. Now we are, of course, in a similar situation, and Daniel finds again some innovative approaches to tackle that situation. So Daniel, thank you for coming on here today and sharing that with you, because I was quite, let's say, irritated when you said, Kai, we never had an exhibition as the type of organization that you are. And I said, we need to discuss this a bit more. So Daniel, thank you for coming on, and tell us a bit about that background, why you never had an exhibition, what you have changed now through that opportunity arising virtually.
Thank you, Kai, for this kind introduction into association world, for organizing this excellent webinar. You're absolutely right. Solar Power Europe is the European association representing the solar sector, never had an exhibition. Well, I'm sure that many of the participants today will associate with us by the fact that, okay, budget is always an issue. We always need to be very careful about cost. Taking risk is very challenging, especially if you don't have a lot of people in the association. So for us, financially, having an exhibition was a huge challenge. Now, despite that, in 2020, we saw an opportunity because there were so many events happening digitally that we felt that could be an opportunity also for us to actually organize our first exhibition virtually. And yet, because we've never done it, we had to really go back to the basics. And we asked the question, why do people actually attend exhibitions? Why do exhibitors become exhibitors? And fundamentally, we were thinking, okay, so you're an exhibitor, you go to an exhibition, you want to show your products and services, right? But why do you want to show your products and services? Well, essentially, you want to show your products and services because you hope that the right people will see those products and services, and potentially those people will engage with you. But then why do you want to engage with those people? Well, you want to engage with those people because you want to establish long-lasting, fruitful, meaningful relationships, and hopefully do business with those people or establish partnerships. So in the basics of what exhibitions are for us, we're talking about engagement, as Paul mentioned, with the right people. Now, being an association, as I said, with limited resources, with limited number of people, we had to start small. And therefore, we thought that what we could do, instead of investing and focusing too much on technology, we could focus on the things that we're very good at. We're very good with people. We're very good at business development. We're very good with engagement. So if we switch the focus from finding the right tool, finding the right technologies, finding the right digital solutions and so on, and switch on the basics, on the things that are our strengths, on how we can actually create meaningful relationship for our exhibitors, for our sponsors, we could potentially be successful. And this is exactly what happened. So instead of, again, putting the highlight on a tool that we used, we put the highlight on the people from our team who will be providing business development as a service to our exhibitors and to our sponsors. And this would all make sense only if we connect them with the right people. So what we did was, in fact, we limited the number of exhibitors to our event. So we had only 13 to 15 exhibitors. We analyzed the businesses of those people in depth, and we understood what could be the potential types of companies and stakeholders that would make the most sense that they engage with. Then we continued the analysis and looked at the people who are attending our event. And we're talking about 1,000 to 2,000 people this year. We were looking at what type of businesses are these? What are the types of solutions that they're looking at? What are the countries that they are looking for partners and potential engagement? What are the difficulties that these potential customers are facing? And by providing this business development as a service, we were actually contacting them on behalf of our exhibitors, on behalf of our sponsors, and we wanted to basically establish the connection only with the right potential customers, only with the right potential partners. If we saw that there is a good match and there is a good reaction, right, we were then going back to our exhibitors and we were making sure that that they're aware that they're interested parties, they're ready to meet, they're ready basically to establish a relationship. This is happening all before the event has started. And the event itself is the place where we're actually allowing people to do the match. The funny thing is, with this model, you provide a service to a limited number of companies and you arrange up to maybe 15 meetings max per company, right? But at the same time, you know that the 15 meetings that you've arranged are essentially companies that said yes to us, that they want to meet the people that we're representing, and those same companies are of interest of then our exhibitors and our sponsors. So we call it a match, the perfect match that could happen in the exhibition. And again, if the people did not commit to a meeting for whatever reason, we were providing the option to go back and look at the list again. If a company for whatever reason had a technical problem or maybe had to prioritize another urgent meeting or another event or so on, and they didn't participate in the meeting, as part of the business development service, we were providing a follow-up after the event, and we were arranging a meeting with another company after the event. Therefore, we were always keeping the promise that if we said that we're going to arrange 15 meaningful meetings for our exhibitors and sponsors, we were going to do it. And then you will probably ask me, but Daniel, how do you measure then the success of all this? And I know that one big indicator is revenue and profit and all these kind of things. But if you know Solar Power Europe a little bit better, you know that these things are important. I mean, they're important for all of us. But we wanted to focus on the revenue and the profit as an effect. And the result that we wanted to achieve was customer satisfaction. Well, we believe that we were successful because after the event, those exhibitors were proactively calling us and they were saying that nobody has ever took the time to care that much about them at any event that they've participated this year. And for us, this was already a signal that this business development as a service and this extra mile that you need to do, which is analysis, matching, follow-up, customer care, the touching points. You go to any business development or sales training, you'll see touching points, touching points, touching points. We were anticipating sometimes that there might be an issue, there might be a mismatch, or there might be something that people might not be happy about. And we were proactively talking to those people to basically tell them, listen, you might want to meet this specific type of company or these guys. That's not a good potential customer for you. We actually recommend you someone else. So we were really playing the role of an intermediary to ensure that we're actually creating the right relationships here. And the funniest thing is some of my colleagues were also receiving calls afterwards saying, if something goes wrong with Solar Power Europe, please give us a call because we do need this kind of people in our team. And if you hear those things, you know, it puts a smile on your face because you know that the service that you've provided is definitely worthwhile. And then obviously the last but not least factor, because I'm sure many people will ask, so what was the financial result? In terms of revenue from sponsorship or exhibition spaces, we had better results for the same event when it comes to revenue sponsorship compared to previous years and physical events. And in terms of profit margin, because obviously of the fact that we didn't focus that much on the technology and we invested less in technology, but we invested more time and more training for our people, this led to a better profit margin than a physical event.
And where do you see this going? I mean, what is for you as Solar Power Europe the future of exhibitions? Is this developing that model? Could you ever see a more traditional type of exhibition, or is this now what convinced you to obviously do even throughout the year? I mean, this is nothing what you're describing that actually is restricted around an event. This could be a new income model, I guess.
Absolutely, Kai, you're absolutely right. We are a member-led association, and the events are indeed a good place that this type of service could work, but it's not limited to it. You're absolutely right. So we're not going to stop here. We're definitely going to continue using this model in different shapes and forms. And when it comes to events, because the focus was really on the people, and the focus was really on providing the best possible customer service that there is when it comes to the business development service. It doesn't really matter what is the type of the event. It could be a physical event, it could be a virtual event, it could be a hybrid event, but the model is very simple. If you put the effort before the event, make sure that the event is just a place where the matching is happening, and then you provide after event service. It doesn't really matter the modality of the event, and therefore we will be using this model because we know it's going to be successful. In fact, our next event is coming very soon, and it is going to be virtual, obviously because of the conditions surrounding us. I would say 90% of our exhibitors are coming back to us, and they're ready to participate in the event, sponsor the event, which is another signal that people are happy with the type of services that we are providing, and they want to stay with us long term. Because as I mentioned, we want long-lasting, meaningful relationships.
Thank you very much for sharing that great story. We want to open it up for a few questions that you still might have. I don't know, Anne, are there a few questions in the chat? Otherwise, also please feel free to open your microphone and address your questions directly to the panelists.
We do have a few questions. We did get one. I think Eric answered it. It was from Gladys, who asked what platform WinTV was on. So Malgosia, that's...
Yes,
and I'm sure there's nothing to add because
yes.
Eric responded. Thank you very much, Eric.
Perfect, good. I think then we have a couple of questions. We have one for Paul from Alexandra Freeman from Visit Flanders. And she is asking, do you have the same amount of members on the seller and buyer side?
So within that particular model of the motorsport sector, we didn't. It was absolutely heavily sell side until we changed towards the membership side of things now, and we still, I would say it's still probably about a 70-30 split towards the sell side. There are, how would I say, there are fewer headaches than there are potential solutions for the headaches. So the model actually works quite well because of how that dynamic works. One of the things actually I wanted to mention off the back of what Daniel said, which I couldn't agree more in terms of the purpose-driven relationships, both from our clients and how they're trying to do things, but also our relationships, is what we've started doing. And this is in part to address the fact that a lot of salespeople are actually quite bad at their jobs. And it's not necessarily because of their capability, but because they're limited by what they're able to spend their time doing and that sort of thing. So to what Daniel was saying in terms of kind of business development as a service, we've started looking at it as a give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And that extra care that Daniel was talking about with his clients, we've virtual events, I'm sure everybody here has had pushback on what's the value of virtual events. Well, major one is data. You'll get so much more data on what people are engaged with, who they want to speak to than anything else. Multitasking is a potential benefit. You don't have to have 6 meetings over 6 hours. You can actually be having a couple of meetings at the same time. But we've been working with our partners to say, well, how are you actually approaching people? If you're going to have, and we've got rid of virtual exhibition pages. We tried it for one summit and they were incredibly ineffective. And instead it's, okay, you providing technology? Well, let's do a technology showcase, a dedicated stage to technology that we know is going to attract certain people. And then we will work with you to analyze the data. Who's viewed your session? Who was asking those questions? How do you follow up? Well, we did that at our first couple of summits 9 to 12 months ago. Those partners now are spending more with us because, exactly to Daniel's point, we invested in them. We invested in effectively upskilling their business development team and their sales team, because often a lot of what our potential clients would say is, sorry, we can't be part of this event because we don't have the resource. Well, we've now helped them with that. It requires less resource on their part because we're taking a lot of that heavy lifting, but also we've trained them so that actually it doesn't take the same amount of resource as what they thought. So yeah, I just wanted to share that off the back of what Daniel said, because I absolutely agree from the sports sector as well.
So regardless of the sector, big alignment there.
I think we have Didier raised his hand. I don't know if it was in relation to this, and we have a couple more questions, but Didier, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. And I just wanted to make a remark here. And I think I think for me, it's all about mindset from the in bracket salespeople. I agree with Paul saying that majority of salespeople are not interested in are not good because they're simply not interested in their clients, but only more in their sales performance. And I think we have there's a need to change the mindset of what you want to achieve. But also it's very important to achieve a change of mindset within the stakeholder of an association. And I think this is a huge opportunity and a very good opportunity for the in-between organizations, such as an association, to position itself in a different way and to position itself in order to help to support both parties to change their mindset and being basically meaningful for both of them. And I think data, the right alignment should have been always the case. It was not, obviously, but it's really an opportunity for associations in between to have a new role, to go in a new direction.
Thank you. Yes, I think Ande is time for one more question.
Yes, we have one from Julia to Daniel. She's asking, what was the rate card for sponsorship?
If by rate card you mean the price that companies were paying, we were talking about packages from 10 to 15,000 euro.
Perfect. Yeah, that was, she confirmed that was what she was asking for. Kai, should we move on?
Yes, I think we have one more Slido here towards the end. Before I go back to the panelists, just quickly to finish one sentence that I will start, which is the sentence, the future of exhibitions is. So the three panelists, please think about that. And actually quite similar question to all of you. What do you think about the future of association exhibitions or exhibitions in general? Those of you who are on, and surely we have more people left than one person. So please type in your word. Let's see what comes out of that.
I have shared the link as well in the chats if you just want to press that. So,
Back to life. I think this is really what we all want. And I'm sure we are all believing that this will happen. Does it exclude virtual or hybrid? Is the big question to come, I think. Engagement, hybrid seems to be the future. Perfect matching, interactivity, opportunities, changes. Someone says changes, yes. And I guess what we learned today is not one fits all. I think it's all quite individual, but it all starts, I suppose, from the stories I hear with someone driving some new idea forward within your organizations and hopefully getting your boards aligned with that. And then obviously also the team. Thank you, Anne, for this. We'll send that information around as well. So I would, in regards to my sentence, start with Malgosia. Malgosia, the future of exhibition is? Relations building. Yes.
I couldn't agree more with Daniel and Paul on the relations, but I do believe that it is possible to combine it with a physical exhibition, but in a very different format, more of a meeting place rather than an exhibition as we know it.
Yes, thank you. Paul, the future of exhibitions is?
The future of exhibitions is potentially the wrong question, I would say, and instead it's the future of business development is. And it's exactly as Daniel has gone through and as Malgosia has said, it's personalized. I saw quite a few that came up, but exhibitions was an easy business development option, but in my view, it's a redundant one, and it's business development is what we need to be focusing on.
Thank you, Paul. This is what I like. This is, I think, cutting it to the chase. Thank you. Daniel, the future of exhibition or business development is?
I think it's all about the people. And before, now, and in the future, it will always be about the people. If you really focus on the people, whether that's the people providing the service or whether that's the people receiving the service and actually care, it doesn't really matter what technology we're going to use, whether it's going to be virtual, whether it's going to be hybrid, whether it's going to be physical. People will definitely appreciate it.
Super. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying on this 4 minutes longer. I just want to point out one session. I think, Anne, we have a slide there. One session we do next week, which relates to a similar point of view now when we all talk about creating our events and exhibitions and hybrids. It's actually the legal matters for associations and event planners where we talk about negotiations, contracts, the cancellation of events. That takes place next Monday, also in collaboration with MeetEngland there. And there you will be able to ask your questions to our Association World legal partner, which is Curia, which is specialized, and that session is in collaboration with MPI Belgium. It's also a complimentary session, and you can ask all your questions about contracts, what should be in a contract, what shouldn't be in a contract, how do I move forward, how do I avoid down payments, because obviously we have suppliers and venues and everybody presenting us some contracts, and our experience is that at the moment people don't show too much flexibility, and we want to discuss that a little bit as association event organizers and event planners on how to tackle this and what is appropriate to do and what not. So please come on next week if that is interesting to you or for any of your teams. And having said that, Caroline, thank you very much again for supporting this. It's great to have you on here, and I hope the session was valuable to everyone. Please send us your feedback as you often do, and bring up suggestions about future sessions and topics that you would like us to see covering. I would say hopefully see you next week. If that is not the case, be safe and stay well. And thank you to all of you, especially Paul, Malgosia, Daniel, Anne, thank you very much for always helping us out here with the technical elements of it. Couldn't do it without you. So great thank you to you as well. And happy Monday again, and to all of you, a good week.
Thank you.